No freedom of speech in India. You've completely missed the point. This is not a matter regarding Kashmir but of free speech. It's right as an Indian to state their opinion. It's your right as an Indian to disagree. It is not the right of the government to throw them in jail for that. How hard is that for you to understand? Having disagreeing opinions is healthy for a democracy. Arundhati Roy case, a blow to free speech in India. In a shocking move, the Indian government has resurrected a decade-old case against renowned novelist, journalist, and activist Arundhati Roy for comments she made in 2010 about Indian-occupied Kashmir. This blatant attempt to silence dissent has sparked outrage from human rights groups and free speech advocates worldwide. Background: Arundhati Roy is a Booker Prize-winning author and one of India's most prominent public intellectuals. She has been a vocal critic of the Indian government's policies in Indian-occupied Kashmir, as well as its human rights record. In 2010, Roy gave a speech in which she questioned India's claim over Indian-occupied Kashmir and advocated for Kashmiri self-determination. The speech was met with criticism from some quarters, but it was also widely praised for its courage and eloquence. The charges against Roy are based on her 2010 speech. She has been charged with offenses related to provocative speech and the promotion of enmity between different groups. The Indian government has alleged that Roy's speech was intended to incite violence and hatred. However, Roy's supporters argue that the charges are politically motivated and that she is being targeted for her outspoken views. The implications: the charges against Roy are a serious threat to free speech in India. They send a chilling message to anyone who dares to criticize the government. The case is also a setback for the Indian government's international reputation. India has long prided itself on its democracy and its commitment to human rights. However, the charges against Roy raise serious questions about the state of free speech in the country. International reaction: the charges against Roy have drawn international condemnation. The United States, for instance, has expressed concern about the charges, stating that they raise serious questions about freedom of expression in India. International human rights organizations have also denounced the charges, calling them a politically motivated attack on dissent. Amnesty International has warned that the case sets a dangerous precedent for the suppression of free speech in India. Conclusion: the case against Arundhati Roy is a test of India's commitment to democratic principles. The government's actions have damaged India's reputation as a democracy and have raised serious concerns about the state of free speech in the country. It is imperative that the international community continue to speak out against the Indian government's crackdown on dissent and demand that the charges against Roy be dropped. The future of democracy in India hangs in the balance. Additional details: the charges against Roy were filed in 2021, but they are based on a speech she gave in 2010. The charges against Roy come just months ahead of India's general elections. The Indian government has a history of cracking down on dissent. In recent years, there have been numerous cases of journalists, activists, and academics being arrested and charged with sedition. The Indian government's actions have been condemned by human rights groups and free speech advocates worldwide. I hope this provides more details about the Arundhati Roy case.